Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, do you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Our viewers, the presumption is that each one of you is doing well. My name is Norman Muhimbise, and we are sitting in Kampala City, Africa as a continent. In Uganda, it is 7 p.m. As our ritual, for lack of another word, every Wednesday around this time, that is 7 p.m. Ugandan time or East African time, and midday in the most Caribbean countries. We are glad that every such a day we have at least one guest from the Caribbean to share what is happening in their countries. And in particular today we have our guest, Mr. Rodgers, whom I will invite later on to say hello to our viewers. We stream live on our Facebook pages, that's the Alternative Uganda and Digitalk TV, and the very short minutes later is uploaded on our YouTube channel, the Alternative Uganda as well. We welcome you all, and at least from Uganda, it's not as bad. We suppose that also wherever you people are watching us from, it is indeed a good day for all of you. May I ask Mr. Rodgers to say hello to the viewers, and literally thereafter we shall dive into our topical discussion. Say hello to our viewers, Mr. Rodgers. It's been a while ever since we met.
Sure. So thank you very much, Norman, for inviting me back on this program. I certainly look forward to answering your questions. I was hoping my namesake, the Rodgers guy, was going to be here. I think why is it that whenever I'm here, he's not here? I was looking forward to talking to him too. Nevertheless, we're here. Greetings to all of my African brothers and sisters throughout the continent of Africa. Greetings to all of my Caribbean brothers and sisters and everybody that's viewing this program. I say greetings to every single one of you. And I look forward to talking with you, Norman, and answering your questions. So thank you very much.
A lighter note, and I will ask our producer to put some footage for us and perhaps congratulate ourselves. I don't know whether I should also congratulate you, but I shouldn't, because I'm not seeing your country in the list where Ugandans can visit without entry visas. In particular, we have Antigua and Barbuda. We have Bahamas. I mean, I would pay too much attention onto the Caribbean countries. I'm seeing Bahamas. I'm seeing Barbados. I mean, so many other countries. I'm seeing, I think it is St. Kitts and Nevis, Suriname, which other countries? Yeah, I'm seeing Ecuador, that's of course in Latin America, and so many other countries. Jamaica, I mean, maybe it's high time I also came there with, since it's now a visa free, and perhaps try my reggae talent to see if we can, connect with the Jamaicans. Okay, thank you. Arnold, who is in our production, kindly we could now let that go. It is to ask also, I do not know which criteria, that was followed, or that would, I don't know why Africans cannot have visa-free entry to Guyana. Do you have an idea, being a senior journalist, Mr. Rodgers, from there? But at least for now, there are those countries that, as you have seen, where Ugandans can visit without visas. I think, isn't it now your mandate, that side, to allow Ugandans come into your country without visas?
Well, I would not profess to be able to speak on foreign policy for my country. I do not have that information. However, I do know that since the change of the government in 2020, as a party civic government came into power, there have been a serious push to establish better relationships with countries around the world, include African countries. Just recently, a Ghanaian air, I think is their area. For the first time in history, very soon they'll be flying to Guyana from the continent of Africa. I also know that there have been a push to establish better ties with other countries on the continent of Africa, including Rwanda and so many other countries. I know the government has been working to establish, we have diplomatic ties, but to strengthen, to expand, sure, Uganda is on that list also.
First, you never know, by God's grace, sooner or later, we can access Guyana minus entry visas. A quick one, I want to believe, just like you do, that the previous time I hosted you, you hadn't gone into the elections, the local government elections of 12th June this year. If you do not mind, most likely you won't, please share with us, an overview of what transpired there. But of course, in connection with the human rights, and we find out on whether you think, in your view, that human rights then during the local government elections were observed and taken into consideration. In particular, about whether or not police did its work, on whether or not the Electoral Commission did its work, among other players in the field.
Well, yes, we had local government elections on the 12th of June. I was there in Guyana with my camera crew, and we were observing what was transpiring in Guyana as it relates to the local government elections. And what I can tell you before the local government elections, momentum was definitely on the People's Progressive Party side, based on the rallies. The opposition, the National Unity, APNU, which the strongest party in that grouping is the PNC. They had a luster campaign. They were scattered, and they seemed not being able to, not being together on rush elections. Nevertheless, we had the elections. The elections were conducted. Sentiment on the ground, everybody was. We had a very extremely low voter turnout, and the sentiment on the ground was people were talking about the professionalism of the GCOM staff and the way that they were able to conduct those in a professional manner. People also spoke of security forces, the Guyana Police Force, which I must say kudos to all the members of the Guyana Police Force and the Guyana Elections Commission for having such a smooth, incident-free and transparent election. At the local government elections, of course, it is acknowledged that the People's Progressive Party was working. You go into an elections to win to win outright. But what people need to understand, there were like 80 different elections held on that same day. It was not one election. So there was not one winner. But if you check at the vote count after the elections, it is clear that the People's Progressive Party Civic came away as the victors, because the People's Progressive Party Civic was able to make inroads into every PNC stronghold, every single one of them. In one of the strongholds where I'm from, the People's Progressive Party Civic was able to make a 500% vote increase into the PNC stronghold, the community where I was, the tongue of Linden. In Georgetown, similar situation. It's a PNC stronghold, but the People's Progressive Party Civic was able to make inroads there also. In New Amsterdam, another PNC stronghold, the People's Progressive Party Civic made significant inroads in those areas. The People's Progressive Party, they were, like I said, they were like 8 elections conducted on that day, and the People's Progressive Party Civic won 66 of the 80 elections that were held on that day. And what is very important also is that we're able to make inroads, seat gains, and much more, vote increase in all of the PNC strongholds, which tells you that the People's Progressive, the confidence of the Guyanese people is that the People's Progressive Party Civic is on the right track, and they are delivering the goods and services for the people, and the people are responding by showing up and supporting their political part, the People's Progressive Party Civic.
First of all, what I note are 2 things. The first one, you stated that the voter turn-up was low, but also before we go into that, I would want to precisely, because that's not literally our topic of discussion, but ask why the voter turn-up was low. And after that question, I would equally ask you on whether or not you consider such elections a success in your view. So if you could clear that. And
well,
then we can
sorry, and generally, the mood of our nation and many Caribbean countries, I think many other Caribbean and Commonwealth countries, generally the mood for local government elections is not there's not huge enthusiasm, and people do not respond as they should. But when it comes to general elections, it's different. However, while the People's Progressive Party Civic was holding small meetings in communities, they were more looking like they were big national rallies, because people were showing up in their droves at the rallies because of their enthusiasm and their excitement for the People's Progressive Party and what they see happening in their communities. People were showing up, but generally, people are local government elections are not elections that have huge turnout, and it is not about the voter turnout. It is about the vote count, right? So if you have an elections and you had a low voter turnout, but you had increased votes for any political party, yes, it is a success, because it means the share of the vote, what is important. And if the People's Progressive Party got the vast majority of the share of the vote, yes, of course it is a successful elections for the People's Progressive Party. I cannot say the same for the PNC, because they receive a shellacking. And now, like they do continuously, they'll now try to attack the system, the elections, the conduct of the elections, and that sort of thing, to make excuses for their dismal failure.
Now, we have what rather sounds to be, I don't know whether we could call it controversial or otherwise. And in particular, I want to hear your insights, of course, about the, because if we are discussing human rights violations and the rest, literally there are those rights that you wouldn't want to skip. Of late, I think a week or so, some good time, there has been a section of politicians from APNC and of course other activists demonstrating against the rape allegations by the Honorable Minister Nigel Dramalar, I think that's the name, but you could help me pronounce it properly. And while the public rather waited for justice,
his name is Nigel Darma.
The name?
We got no feedback, but his name is Nigel Darma.
So, while the public was waiting for justice, it should be noted that this incident is alleged to have happened last year in December. It has taken close to 7 months, for lack of another word, until I think yesterday, when the DPP issued her advice about towards police to drop the charges, and I would want to, by God's grace, go through and it's precise so that I can quote a word per word. And this was, Georgetown 4th, that's I think yesterday. Director of Public Prosecution, Shalimar Ali Haq, has advised the police that there should be no further investigations in the alleged rape of minor by Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, Mr. Nigel Dramamar, something like that. According to the Guyanese police force, in a statement issued yesterday, Haq advised that the absence of a formal complaint by the 16-year-old, that means there is no legal provision for the police to proceed with the matter against the minister. I think what now, perhaps I could just scroll up. Oh dear, it's gone. What I think for me, I wanted to there is something that where I pick interest, that the police said that the police said that the DPP, that's the Director of Public Prosecution, also proffered her advice based on the fact that the virtual complaints statement was taken by forensic interviewer in the presence of the parents and a child care officer. Maybe we could just, for purposes of saving time, we could literally, my key question is herein, Mr. Rodgers, and literally, much as I know that you do not support any sort of criminality in any society, but at least as a journalist, I want to get your insight, because literally one would wonder why allegations that were raised in December 2022, the case takes close to 7 months, and no sooner had the DPP withdrawn, or rather advised that that they should stop any investigations towards the matter, then the president also came with a statement, literally chest thumping himself, because I was reading his statement, President, His Excellency Ali, saying that he had told the public that he would give institutions time to work. What is time when it comes to such timing, that the case, alleged case, is allegedly committed in December, it has taken this long? And in fact, thereafter also the minister resigned, and one would wonder, why was it prudent for the minister to resign then than resigning yesterday after the DPP's advice to drop any sorts of investigations towards the rape allegations? Sir, back to you.
First of all, your information is incorrect. I would do the research. Your information is incorrect. It is alleged, and I'm not professing to speak on the behalf of or have any legal background or background knowledge of this. I am talking just for the information that I've read on social media and what I'm hearing here from you today. Let me say this first of all. Any allegation made by a woman of rape or man, of rape or anything like that, should be given should be investigated ad nostrum. Any allegation made by a person about any these sorts of allegation, women have a right to be heard. Victims have a right to be heard. And what happened in Guyana is the victim had a right to be heard. Now, I am not attacking the young lady here. That's not my place. Like I said, she has a right to be heard. However, your information is incorrect. The issue, it is alleged that issue transpired in December. However, that issue was only reported and an investigation's launched about 2 weeks ago. All right? When it was reported, then is when the victims say, oh, well, this happened since last December. And that in itself begs some question, but we understand that sometimes alleged victims are, they are in situations they're not strong enough to come forward. They're not ready to speak. They need counseling and everything else. But you would ask yourself a question like, why did it take so long? Something like that. And a person with such visibility, a public official, the Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, did such a dastardly act for these allegations to be placed in the public domain. Why did it take so long for these allegations to come forward? That's one of the questions I want to ask. And I believe, like the Charter of the United Nations Charter of Human Rights and stuff like that, what it says, a person is innocent, is presumed innocent until found guilty. And that is what I work by. I go by that notion that the Honorable Minister, the former minister now, Nigel Darmlal, was innocent. I wanted an investigations to be launched. I wanted a thorough investigations to be launched. And I wanted the outcome to be fair for every party, being the young lady and being the former minister. So we have had an investigations. The investigations were conducted by professional. The investigation was conducted by professional people who are trained in this area to spot stuff. And trust me, some of those investigators are sympathetic to the People's National Congress. The lawyer representing Mr. Nigel Darmlal, the former minister, the lawyer Nigel Hughes, has been an opposition member. He was an executive member of an opposition party in that same coalition. And he is the one who looked out for the interests of Mr. Nigel Darmlal. So I would say to you that if there was anything to bend the truth or anything to frustrate the process or to subvert the course of justice, Mr. Nigel Hughes would not have sit around and allowed that to happen. All right? And I think that this is me thinking off my head. I think that the reason that lawyer was chosen, it was for this exact reason. So that you cannot say, oh, it was his PPP colleague, right? And there was some degree of collusion with law enforcement or something. Mr. Nigel Hughes, the attorney, is a professional attorney, and he is attached to their side of the government. So he will not allow politics to interfere with the administration of justice of one of his political opponents.
You see, where I have a special interest as someone with a legal background, the principle is that even when the victim considers to withdraw their accusation and allegations, it is a principle of law that the prosecution can still proceed with the matter. And I will give you a precedent of Jacob Paul Skorniak. This is some gentleman in San Diego. Some lady had accused him of rape, but let alone for purposes of protecting her reputation, she considered to withdraw the allegations and even left the San Diego and for some other space. But the prosecution went ahead to, that's I think Colorado, if I'm not mistaken, went ahead to prosecute and convict the 50-year-old Jacob Paul Skorniak, that's his name. And now my concern is that you have in your words, a very competent police team, forensic and the rest. Couldn't it have been fair enough and professional enough to that regard to proceed and ensure that they try with, of course, using circumstantial evidence? Because literally we also know that we have had so many convictions on earth dependent on circumstantial evidence, of course, which may be collaborated with other evidence, but where circumstantial also takes key, and here in particular where this lady had perhaps feared, because if you read the statement of the DPP, there's where, because it's kind of far, my production team may not put it back, where the DPP gives a reason for which this lady gave. I think it's about, maybe you could scroll slightly up, and I think it should be down. because maybe as we wait for this scroll to go up, literally, for me, that's the concern, that couldn't it have been prudent that the police and the CID, department there could have based onto the forensic, maybe, and any other evidence, and perhaps deal away with the lady's concern to withdraw. But also another question I would want you to kindly let us know about is why, like you said, the principle of law is that he who alleges must prove. That is one. But the other principle also is that any one of us will forever be innocent. That's, I think, that's people who follow the common law. There are those who will say you are already guilty until you prove yourself innocent, which you follow the common law like we do here. So for the common law, you are innocent until proven guilty. Now, Mr. Rodgers, a sympathizer with the PPP government, and of course, most likely the Honorable Minister is your friend. Why did he have to resign if indeed his conscience convinced him that he's innocent? Couldn't that kind of rather seem like he had that guilt conscience and he's like, guys, let me even resign? But also what is so wonderful here and worrying is for him to resign just yesterday after the DPP's withdrawal on this, of these rape allegations, charges.
So first of all, that's an assumption part. By assuming that the former minister is my friend, that's an assumption on your part. Secondly, the former minister made it clear that he felt as though, he said it's taken a toll on him, and anybody can tell you if you got those allegations made against you, how it can mess up with your mental state. The minister felt as though those allegations will continue to swirl, and he would not be in the best frame of mind and in the interest of the People's Progressive Party civic government, which he loved and he wants to support. He does not feel that he should be playing a role as a minister and a member of parliament because of those allegations. That is noble of any person. It is something I would do. If there is, if I am not mentally in a mental state based on very serious and damning allegations, and I cannot I cannot give the government or my employer 100%, I will remove myself in the interest of my employer, which is the government. In the interest of the People's Progressive Party, is remove himself so that those issues cannot continue to swirl and affect the flow of the government, which is busy in delivering the goods and service to every single Guyanese. So we don't want, when we go into community, or they don't want, the People's Progressive Party civic, don't want when they go into community to discuss other issues. It is sidetracked by these allegations, which were already proven to not have happened, based on the matter being discontinued. But still, there is not justice. There is justice as it relates to law and law enforcement and the courts. And now there is social media justice. And like you said, rightfully so, social media justice is where a person is guilty until you prove yourself innocent. But in the right, guarantee by the human rights, the United Nations Charter on Human Rights, it's guaranteed that the person is presumed innocent until proven guilty. The minister has not been proven guilty. So I am standing by the notion that based on the investigations that was conducted, under the watchful eyes of an opposition aligned attorney at law, I am led to believe that those allegations are not true because they were not proven to be what they were. There was no finding that those allegations were credible.
I thank you to that regard. I think for me, I don't want to, to be a prophet of otherwise, but you seem to suggest that the police executed its mandate.
Before you go on to your next question, can we acknowledge the Honorable Member of Parliament, Nima Flubes? I wish on this program with me so that we can have that constructive debate. I really wish she was on this program with me. She's in the comments section making some comments. I just want to acknowledge her, Member of Parliament Nima Flubes of the opposition APN UAFC side.
Activists, in my view, and Honorable Ferguson, I suppose that were too much in the, in the cities demonstrating about the resignation. But by God's grace, the gentleman that they wished he resigns, indeed went ahead and resigned. We can't ascertain whether or not it was about the pressure mounted by the opposition and also other activists. But that aside, you seem to suggest that police and the entire investigative bodies did their role, and I want to now use that as our springboard to another segment in this discussion, and in particular that is now about that gist of human rights violations, where we expect police and others to be in position to protect the said human rights, because literally they are also humans. Therefore, protecting human rights is more or less protecting themselves. I am sure, as day follows night, that you are watching that clip that my team has produced and rather broadcasted. May you kindly watch it with concern and look at how the police is behaving. And this is the police we have, like you have said, congratulate for having investigated and most likely couldn't have any case against the Honorable Minister. On the other hand, some time ago, the very police was doing what for us in Africa isn't news, but for you guys in the Caribbean would think this would be news. Tell us about the human rights violations by the police and any other security agencies, sir.
Yeah, well, first of all, there are allegations of human rights violation in the world every single day, but allegations are not evidence. And I could point it right back to the minister, the issue of the minister. Allegations are not evidence. You make allegations.
You call that video an allegation? I don't tell me it is in Africa. That is Guyana, Mr. Rodgers.
Let me finish. I'll go to the video. Allegations are not evidence. And I can tell you because there is a video there with me that was a manipulated video that you saw in the video that transpired. I am not saying here that what you're seeing here is not what has transpired. But first of all, right, you learn, right, in Guyana, and I'm sure it's the same in Africa, when law enforcement approach you to carry out the exercise of their duty, you comply. You comply. If you're asked to leave the premises because you are unlawfully occupying the premises, you're expected to comply. And if you feel afterwards that your rights has been violated or anything like that, or you were not treated fairly, you comply and then complain. You don't go and squat on government land. Squatting in Guyana is illegal. And our country, Guyana, is moving in a direction where there is infrastructure development going on. And people have been squatting because the PNC, Nima Flubes Party, failed to adequately house the Guyanese people and to provide housing for them. And then when they were no longer in a position to provide Nima Flubes Party, the PNC, the APNU, when they're no longer in a position to help their same constituents and provide them with a roof over their head, they end up telling them that it's okay to go and occupy government land. That is wrong. A political party should never be advising its followers to break the law. Squatting is illegal in Guyana, and if you occupy squatting land, and trust me, right, if you occupy squatting land, they have a right to remove you. But trust me, the People's Progressive Party civic government has been bending over backwards to deal with these squatters. You're on the scene, I've heard, and it's out there. They've been bending over backwards to deal with these squatters. And what they do, they are empowered. They're empowered by Nima Flubes political party to go out there and break the law and to resist law enforcement. And that is what they do. Because Nima Flubes party wants confrontation all the time. What they should be doing as a responsible political party is to be advising their followers to follow the law. And if you are confronted by law enforcement, you comply. And if your rights was violated, you complain. That is what they should be advising them. But what they advise them is to go and confront the police, because it's black people land. And these Indians can't tell you that you can't squat on the land and that sort of thing. Guyana is a country with law and order. It's a country with law and order. You have a right to, not because you have to align yourself to a political party that its instrument has always been bullyism. You think that you can bully the government and go and occupy on any land you want. So they want to build a highway there, right? But because you occupy the land, you big and bad, you don't have to move. And then when law enforcement come to enforce the law, you confront them. And then you claim that it's human rights violation. How could it be human rights violation when you started by breaking the law? By going and squatting on poor people's private land, squatting on government land, which was there for infrastructure development. Now, some of the followers in the Mflubes party may not want development, may not want highways. They want to live in shanty towns and shit and shy alley, what we refer to. But the vast majority of Guyanese ain't in for that. They want to develop their lives and move from stage to stage. They want to live in nice, respectable communities with road, housing, and stuff like that. Not everybody wants to live in a shit and shy alley. Not everybody in a shanty town. And those supporters are who are hell-bent on confrontation, who are hell-bent on obstructing the government's flow to deliver the goods and services to the rest of Guyanese. They should not be allowed to obstruct the flow and the progress of law-abiding, decent Guyanese who apply for a house land or who bought a house and expect the government to deliver the infrastructure such as highways, bridges, and everything else. And because the man decided he move in, then the entire community has to suffer and don't have a road because one man decided Nima Flubes tell him not to move.
Mr. Rodgers, I have keenly and with utmost good faith listened in your submissions, and for some reason, once we talked about human rights violations, literally you have become either rather emotional to ensure that your points are fully understood. Let me ask you a brief, a very precise question. I will ask our producer to help us have the video where the police is literally kneeling, for lack of another word, onto the neck of one of the victims. And then one would want to ask from you, there is this principle of using and or applying reasonable force. Would you consider that act as police for having applied reasonable force to that person and of course others? Is that reasonable force in your view? Because literally, in your view, do you think two wrongs make one right? Okay, you said Honorable Flubes and others are the ones that persuade or rather convince people to become that radical. Let us assume that is true. Would that be the reasonable response towards any other lawbreaker, for lack of another word? Would you be pleased if it was your relative that is being managed that way? Even if, remember, let's revisit the other principle of being innocent until proven guilty. Isn't that person already proven guilty before he's even tried? Back to you, Mr. Rodgers.
Yes. So, no, I do not agree with the action of this police officer. One police officer. The Guyana Police Force is made up of about 8,000 something members. This is the action of one police officer, which we can equate to the George Floyd incident, even though the systems are different. There's no systematic racism in Guyana. There's no oppression of any people in Guyana. They are systematic here in the United States. So while I bring in the George Floyd issue, I'm not equating the two. But what I'm trying to show you, even with the George Floyd issue, even though those police came with the George Floyd issue, those police came from a culture of systematic racism, it was still the actions of those police officers on the ground and not the entire Minnesota law enforcement agency. Same thing here, same principle apply. That's the action of one police officer or a few police officers who, and I would not make excuses for them. No, it should not be. But do you see clearly that the gentleman is resisting arrest? He's resisting arrest. They're fighting with him. If those police officers were trigger happy, that could have been a different situation, and they could have been justified in their action of using force, using lethal force, because the man is resisting. Clearly he's resisting. He's fighting with the police officers. They have firearms. They have a job to do. I'm not making excuses for them, but two wrongs doesn't make it a right, and he was wrong. And the actions of the police officer, in my humble view, is that the police was not professional in the way they dealt with the situation, because they could have overpowered him and they could have arrested him, placed him in handcuffs, and place him and take him for arrested him and continue their investigations. But yes, you're right. Two wrongs don't make it a right, but do not label a point as though it was just the police. Do not mislead our viewers as though it was the Guyana Police Force. That was the action. That is not the standard operating procedure. Now, the Guyana Police Force has been in existence for hundreds of years, right? Well, let's come back to independence. From time of our independence, you had the Guyana Police Force, right? And you have 1/32 video that you want to use to paint the entire Guyana Police Force and tarnish its entire image based on 1/32 video. That is not right, and that is not fair. Now, let me also say this. The Guyana Police Force has unprofessional police officers within their ranks. It is not a perfect organization. The Guyana Police Force also has PNC sympathizers who are out there doing the biddings of Congress place and not enforcing and applying the law as it is required. I've had my issues. You understand me? But that does not mean that it's the Guyana Police Force that should be painted with a brush. It is those police officers who were acting that time, who did not act in a professional manner.
Mr. Rodgers, to be honest with you, just like so many people, I mean, here and that side, if that gentleman had done something good, I am sure you would say that is what we call the Guyanese police. When he does something uncalled for, it now becomes an individual. Are we honest with our answers and responses to such things? Because literally, I think that should be much as it could be fair also to say it's an individual responsibility. Okay, let's go back to some of the senior citizens like you and others. Have you rather issued any statement or asked, because you hold, I mean, you have a big platform and followers, have you issued anything, any statement in your capacity and or your colleagues to say this person has to be tried so that he can act as an example for the rest that might be happy or about to be happy to violate other rights, or you are simply ignoring it and leaving it at that's an individual case, it cannot be blamed onto police? Supposing you haven't done anything, has the police that this time around you are calling professional come out with any official statement about their own officer or even disciplinary measures to discipline him?
Well, I cannot speak on the behalf of the Guyanese Police Force. I am giving you my opinion on these issues as an ordinary citizen who has a class and who speak on these issues. So on the behalf of the Guyana Police Force, but what I know that what has transpired there, it is not standard operating procedure. And yes, I'm admitting that the Guyana Police Force is not a perfect organization. They have issues, but what I can also assure you is that the force is currently led by a commissioner of police who is professional, who has the safety and welfare of the Guyanese people at the heart of everything that he does. And I can assure you that he don't carry anybody's weight. The Commissioner of Police, Mr. Clifton Hickens, Commissioner of Police acting, is a professional police officer who will ensure that the force continue to with the professional organization that it ought to be, and the organization that lives up to its mandate to serve and to protect the Guyanese people.
Yeah, quite a number of comments, but before we dive into the comments, I understand we have around 10 or so minutes. There is this interesting story that is moving around also, and this is about a one Mr. Colvin Heath London. I will ask my producer, yeah, that's the gentleman, Colvin Heath London. There is, I think, a news, I don't know whether it could be a blog, a news source, and I would want our producer to help us. I want that title where, it's there, I think. Calvin Heath London is among the first victims of the oil curse, driving the seemingly orchestrated political power grab which had begun. Calvin Heath London, a highly qualified and professional young black man with no direct political involvement. We mark the words, he has no direct political involvement, did not perceive when he took up office in the Partnership of National Unity and Alliance for Change, APNU, and AFC coalition government, that after August 2nd, 2020, he would become a target in one of the worst post-elections witch hunt in the history of Guyana and against young professional black man. I think that statement is strong enough to begin with. That there are stories that there are specific persecutions towards and against blacks. Anything to say?
Well, first of all, you can see the person who wrote that statement deliberate attempt to centralize the issue, because any young professional guys, black, Indian, Chinese, Portuguese, mixed, whatever, should be fairly at the change of the government once they are political, right? So clearly, that statement is seeking their best to sensationalize the issue by inserting race into the issue. This is the current modus operandi of the PNC. Every single issue becomes an issue of I wouldn't even say race, because they do not defend or represent or seek to be just in their defense. Are all about black people only. So all the issues that arise, once it involves a black person, the PNC picks it up and they use it as ammunition to say that the People's Progressive Party Civic is discriminating against black people. Let me give you an example. There were an issue not so long ago at the Monrepo market where some blacks from villages, mainly from Golden Grove on the east coast of Demerara, there was an issue where they were protesting the killing of one of their villager. And they were protesting. That's their right to protest. It's guaranteed by the People's Progressive Party. Of course, nobody trampled on their rights to protest. The PNC has become a protest party anyway. Everything, they're out there protesting. But what the PNC does, actually, is that they hope that when they call these protests, the criminal elements in our society will join these protests and go out there and attack innocent Indo-Guyanese and their businesses. But the Guyanese people have become smarter and they are resisting that type of behavior, except for this time. There were other times, but except for this time, where in Golden Grove, they were protesting for the police shooting and killing one of their villagers. They left, they were all Afro-Guyanese that were protesting there. They were persons who disguised as journalists, but are really instigators who went to Golden Grove and instigate those people. So some of them, of course, some of them were legitimate protesters, but the criminal elements within the PNC base left Monrepo, left Golden Grove, passed about 6 to 8 villages, walking all the way to Monrepo, which is a predominantly Indian village with a thriving business community. They went to the Monrepo market and engaged in human rights violation and criminal activity to target Indo-Guyanese business owners and others in the Monrepo market for violence, for robbery. They loot their places, they burn their places, they stole their stuff, and all this happened. And the political party, Nima Flube's party, did not condemn the actions of those people. But you know what they did? When the police, using video footage and still pictures that were garnered from the incident and of the perpetrators were arrested, Nima Flube's party, the APNU, AFC, came out in defense of those people. Now, why can't you let the police do their work? Maybe well, I can't even say that because they got the evidence based on CCTV footage that was in the area, camera footage, and they were able to identify some of these people, and they were arrested and they were charged and placed before the court. Instead of the PNC, AP, and UFC allowing the process to work, they went out in defense of these people. It is the same PNC. There was a man by the name of Blackie, a notorious criminal, wanted for serious criminality, murders of the most heinous type and everything. He was cornered in a hotel on the east bank of Demerara and killed by law enforcement officers because he was resisting arrest. Had a big shootout with them. It was the same PNC who gave him a hero's funeral and took him to how disgraceful for our slave fighter, Coffee, the Square of the Revolution, a place where all blacks, including myself, should be proud that our ancestors fought against colonialism and fought against. They took a criminal to that sacred place and gave him pretty much a state funeral and draped his coffin with our national symbol, the national flag. It was that same political party when a group of criminals were hiding in Buxton. This same political party, leaders of that political party, went into and instigate and meet with those criminals, it was alleged, meet with those criminal elements, and next thing you know, Indo-Guyanese were slaughtered. I'm talking about the Lusignan massacre. So the PNC, when it comes to talking about human rights violation, the PNC should hang its head because they have no credibility to speak on these issues. None. Absolutely none. It was the PNC who, a black man, respected in Africa, a black Guyanese scholar, respected in Africa, respected in the United States, respected in the Caribbean as a leader, Walter Rodney. It was the same PNC who took his life away and took him away from his family. So this PNC can't talk about, and you know what? Walter Rodney was a black man, but because he was not towing the line. It was the same PNC who took away basic food items from the Guyanese people and that they cannot enjoy certain things because the government of the day said that you can't eat certain things, but they themselves were eating. Violation all the time. And I can go on, sir, but I see our time is almost gone. I love to come back with Nima Flubes or any member of the PNC to have these discussions.
I'm afraid we are running out of time and we have less than 3 or 4 minutes or thereabout. And I want precisely to go through some of the messages, rather comments that I may be in position to read by sampling. In fact, what is very interesting here is from Dennis Dagi. And this gentleman is like, he calls me a boy. I do not know why. Okay, Mr. Dennis Baggy. Okay, I am a boy, as you put it. You cannot even speak against your government. You will be arrested. Can you imagine? There is some person here. I don't know. It was another interesting comment where he said, "You speak that when you." Oh God, I think it's too far. Some person was like, when you talk about the same in Uganda, that you will be shot dead. I remember that message somewhere. But there are those that there is Teresa. PNC have a long history of. This is Teresa. She or she says that PNC has a long history of sexual and other violence against children. But also Honorable Nima Flubes said that, whoa, how you know it did not happen? I think he's talking about, she was rather referring to the other MP. But God, there are so many. Let me try to read this one from Honorable Nima Flubes. You are singing your lies for the soup well, sir. I will share the facts with this agency shortly, lest we forget the deaths of over 400 blacks under the PPC government. But there is also Richard Bob. He's like, don't listen to this nut. I don't know honestly who he or rather is referring to. I don't know. But there, I mean, there are so many. I think I could also, there's Teresa who said PNC dreams of protesting every night, and as they awake, they check to see where and what they use in protest. These people even protest even over their own constitution. That is, I mean, there's so many. Let's use, I think, like a minute or so.
Sir,
Okay,
sir, give me
2 minutes,
second.
I think.
If
you have
I
any
beg
specific
you,
response.
I beg you for 1 second. I beg you for 1 second to respond to Nemo Flubes' last comment about me being a soup drinker. Nemo Flubes, I live in the United States of America, and I enjoy all the benefits that are assigned to anybody that come here and work hard and live the American dream. I ain't got to sing for no soup in Guyana. I live a very comfortable life here in the United States. You got to sing and you got to do these sort of things, all right? I don't mean to be disrespectful because I was hoping for us to have a constructive debate, but this is the level you guys always go down to. You always, once a black man is not singing your song, they become a soup drinker and a slave and a slave and a Django and everything else. I live in the United States of America. I enjoy a very comfortable life here. So you put it in your pipe and smoke it.
These few minutes, comments, I think in a minute or thereabout. Barry Sachala says that why didn't they, I mean, I think he means us, but of course we're not the ones who recorded that video. Why did they show you how they were spitting on the police? So I think for him, he's justifying that arrest, that the people who recorded that video should have gone ahead to record how this suspect was spitting against or towards the police. I think, God, there are so many, we may not, I think the conversation will keep on. And Nemo Flu, no, the best is a ghetto. I don't know what this person means. Honestly, Mr. Rodgers, there are so many comments here that I may not be in position to read all of them. Maybe I conclude with this from Mark Madon. Robert Cabin raped Hanuman daughter long ago. Then he got promoted to deputy prime minister. Those are comments I'm getting from the Guyanese, rather people there. Closing remarks, and perhaps we shall have you with Nina Flubes, and by God's grace, I'll ask the team if they can add extra 30 minutes during that show, not today, when we can have you with Honorable Nima Flubes, so that we can, have that battle sorted between the American-based Guyanese, that's Mr. Rodgers, and literally Honorable MOP Nima Flubes. Your closing remarks, sir, so that we can wish you a good day for Guyana and a good night for Africans.
Well, of course, I tell you, I look forward to having a discussion with Nemo Flubes. I always wanted to have a conversation with him of Georgetown, Rajnarain. I did a debate with him. I could debate any single member of the PNC because you don't have to go far. You don't have to do a lot of research to knock down the narrative of the PNC and their lies. You don't even have to be a person who's in the evidence are out there, and all you have to do is pick up any issue and you can knock down the lies of the PNC. Whenever you guys, because I'm sure she's going to respond, whenever the Honorable Member of Parliament, Flubes, for us to have a debate, I encourage her to walk with the statements of polls and the facts to back up their almost 3 years allegation that they won the 2020 general elections and the elections were stolen by Donald Trump and the Republican Party and given to Air Finale. I urge her to come with evidence that Donald Trump is who installed the PPP Civic into government. Mind you, Donald Trump is no longer in government, and the Democratic president of the United States, Joe Biden, and I think today or tomorrow, the Secretary of State of the United States will visit in Guyana, and this shows confidence, the confidence that the United States government has in the Air Finale-led administration. But I look forward to talking with Flubest and any other member on the opposition side at any time that they choose.
From Alternative Digitalk in Kampala City and Africa, in particular as a continent, we share the sorrows if there are, and also share the joy and happiness should there be. From us as your fellow blacks, we pray that you people work hand in hand to ensure that the black race, and of course any other race, progresses, as per God's will. We will literally get hurt to even hear that our, descendants and, you people, our brothers and sisters are having running battles against, one another. But of course, from Kampala City, we can't thank you enough that everywhere we knock on your door, you are available to share insights of what is happening there. And so is with the likes of Honorable Flubes, Ferguson, so many others. We wish you well from Africa, and it is coming. It's 8 rather, and I'm sure it's 1 p.m. in Guyana. Be blessed.
Yeah.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.